Good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Thursday Bloodhound Workshop here. So let me finish looking to see at the names. Um, well, I think I recognize all the names, although there might be one here that I'm not 100% positive on. So let me just double check here and see if there is anybody new to these workshops today. And if there is anybody fairly new, my question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the workshop introduction is I'll explain what we do in these workshops, what we do not do. I'll explain how the recordings work. And then lastly, I'll explain what custom indicators I can install into my machine in case you do have a question about using some custom indicator. All right. So if anybody would like to hear that introduction about the workshops here, just let me know. I like to get those out of the way first. So um, in the meantime, I do have a question here um, that I pulled out of the emails that came through. It wasn't actually emailed in specifically for the workshops, but I thought, it would be a good little interesting condition building exercise here. So, so I'll do that to get the workshop started, and then afterwards, gentlemen, I'll be looking for your questions in the Q&A window as usual. So, all right. Well, I don't see any takers on the workshop introduction, so let's get into this first topic here. Um, all right. Yeah. So the question came into our email support here to wanting to know how to generate a signal when the cumulative delta is greater, right? So the closing price of the cumulative delta is greater than 10% of the actual volume, right? So a little math has to be done here, right? So you got to take the actual volume and reduce it down to 10%, find 10% of the volume's value, right? And then compare the order flow cumulative delta and find out that the order flow actually close at that 10% level or greater, right? So, and so a long signal will be generated if the cumulative delta volume is positive, and a short signal will be generated if the cumulative delta volume is negative there. All right. So I just want to emphasize here that Bloodhound doesn't do math. Bloodhound's not a math indicator. That is the job of indicators to do the math. All right. So just for example, the cumulative delta is doing math, right? It's adding and subtracting volume to figure out is it positive or negative, right? And it's even doing math to calculate, the lowest low of the volume, right? And the highest high of the volume and all that stuff, right? Just same thing, moving averages, right? They're all mathematical formulas here. So it's the job of custom indicators to do any kind of custom math job that you want here. But it just so happens that because this math problem here is simple, there's only one um, math portion of it, which is we had to take the actual volume and find out what's 10% of that. Then what that does is that allows this old, almost it's a superseded indicator, but it still hangs around because there's some old back in Bloodhound version 1, right? There's probably a bunch of systems out there that still use this indicator, um, but for the most part, it's not needed today. And that indicator is Chameleon here. So what Chameleon has is you can do a scaling. You can scale whatever is input into Chameleon, right? So you can change the input of Chameleon there, the input series, right? And then you can scale that value, right? Or you can add and subtract. So Chameleon has some very, the two basic mathematical functions here. And since all we need to do is scale the actual volume down to 10%, and then in the comparison solver, we can compare the cumulative delta closing volume to that scaled down volume that Chameleon is providing there, right? So let's see here. Let's do that right now. So let's see. So I'm going to go 0.1, right? So we're going to scale the actual volume down to 10% here. And then the input series here, let's open that up. And let's plug in Ninja's volume indicator. There we go. There's the volume. All right. And let's see. So we actually want to look at, right, the volume just has a closing volume, right? There's no high, low, and open. So we're going to make the close visible. And what should we do? I guess we'll do a light white there. And we'll set the high and the low to transparent. There. And let's see what we get. Oh, yeah. Let's put it on its own panel. um, there. All right. So, yeah, I'd say that looks pretty accurate. That looks like 10%. All right. All right, so now we have 10% of the volume, and now we can do a direct comparison of the cumulative delta to that 10% volume there. All right, so now let's open up Bloodhound and get to work. All right, well, first thing, let's set today's um, Bloodhound file name here. And 22nd, yep. All right, so once we have a file name in place, then all of our work will get saved to that file. So yeah, so doing this um, uh, comparison of 10% of the actual volume to the cumulative delta, that's a comparison, right? Is the cumulative delta greater or less than that 10% volume there? So that is a comparison solver. Yeah. And let's see here. So I'm going to plug in the 10% volume into input A here. Um, yeah, let's give this a name here. There we go. All right. So we're just comparing 10% of the volume to the order flow cumulative delta. All right, so let's set up input A. So input A, we're going to set this up, right, for this panel here that we did for the volume. Now, we're going to do some nesting inside of Bloodhound, just like what we did on the chart here. Um, so I'm going to go find the cumulative delta, or sorry, um, chameleon. There we go. Go find chameleon. And we're going to use that close plot there. And we want to set it to 10% there. Set the scale value to 10%. So that's chameleon's all set up. Now we need to nest the volume into chameleon. So, all right, there's the volume. So I'm just going to single click and then click the nested input. And there we go. So now we can see the volume is being fed into chameleon, just like how we did on the chart here. So, and obviously volume doesn't have any settings, only one plot, so don't have to adjust the volume in any way. But if you do take some other indicator, you can adjust the settings in this panel and select whatever plot it is that you want to feed into the other indicator there. So, all right, so let's click OK there. And sometimes you do get a little error like this when you're nesting stuff. So we'll just ignore it for now. And a reload of the chart will fix all that here. But let's first finish setting up the cumulative delta. So let's open up the indicator. Do a little search. There we go. There's the cumulative delta. And so we have this cumulative delta set up on bar there. And we want to look at the closing price. There. Um, and let's see here. I'm going to just double check the comparison rules and see if we need anything. Well, um, actually, yeah, you know what? I should have, I should have flipped and put B and A. So I should have put the cumulative delta in A, and the chameleon and the volume in B, because the default settings would have worked here. So because these are flipped, I'm actually going to have to use the less than, right? So we're looking for the cumulative delta to be greater than 10% of the volume. Or in other words, 10% of the volume has to be less than the cumulative delta. So remember, chameleon is representing 10% of the volume. So 10% of the volume needs to be less than the cumulative delta. So I just had to reverse that there. All right. So now, so hopefully at this point you kind of realize that, well, how do we compare a negative value to a positive value, right? Volume is always positive, but the cumulative delta spits out a negative value. So a negative value is always going to be less than the volume here, right? So we're going to have to do this a second time to do the negative values here, right? So for now, we're just going to ignore the short side here. So right now what we built, only a positive cumulative delta comparing to a positive volume is going to work in this case here. All right, let's click OK. And oh yeah, and we did get that error, so close this out and let's reload the chart and see if we get anything. There we go. All right. So we do get some results here. And yeah, and you'll notice, right, we get longs and shorts. So this was set up to only compare a positive cumulative delta to a positive volume here. So I'm going to set the evaluate to long only, right? It's only good for showing us the longs here. So yeah, if we look, right, only when the cumulative delta is positive are we getting any results here. And yeah, like that short cumulative delta, yeah, that it looks like that will generate a result as well here, and that long one as well there. All right, so let's set up another one of these comparison nodes here. So what I'm going to do is just copy this, and actually there, we'll just put a little note that this is only good for the long type of comparison here, and I'll paste the copy down here, plug that in, and we'll note that this is going to do the short signal comparison here. All right, and we'll change the evaluate right now to short only there. So what we can do is go into Chameleon here, and we can make this scaling negative here, right? So that way we're dealing with two negative values. So that way we can compare a negative value with a negative value there, right? So click that. And right now everything's kind of reversed. So essentially where there's no signals, that is where the cumulative delta is greater, right, in a negative sense than the volume is. So we just need to go into to fix the rules here. And this time, let's see, what's it going to be? Yeah, greater than. Hit apply. Yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, so there, whenever, yeah, so, as we might expect, whenever you see these longer cumulative delta bars, right, those are the ones that are going to be greater than 10% of the volume bars there. All right, so the last step, since we had to do this, right, with two different mathematical formulas, that's why it took two nodes. Now we can join them together with an OR node. And now we have a single output. And there we go. All right. So let's see here. Let's give this a name. Yeah, I think that works for a name. And yeah, it looks like sometimes, interesting, we're getting a negative cumulative delta volume on an up bar. So if you wanted to kind of filter those out, that would be pretty darn simple. We can just add a bar direction there, and then add a AND node, and we can just filter the signals that do not match the bar direction will get filtered out, like so. There, so we got rid of that one. Well, all right, so that's kind of what I had from the support emails to get things started, gentlemen. So with that, the rest of the workshop is up to your guys' questions. So, gentlemen, yeah, there we go. Well, I don't see anything in the Q&A window. Um, let's see. Yeah, if you got the rest of it there, Charles, I think you can figure out the first 10% was really 10 minutes was just kind of setting up the uh, explaining, yeah, just explaining what exactly we're doing there. So I think by catching the most important part, you probably figured out exactly what's going on there. Yeah. So, but of course, yeah, if you do want to see the whole thing, you can always email into support there and ask us to upload the video right to the raw channel there. And where to go? And let's see, do I have it? Here we go. Yeah, you can ask us to upload it to our raw channel here on YouTube. Yeah. All right, well, gentlemen, I'm just waiting for the next Bloodhound question to come in here. So I was kind of hoping maybe that might get the juices flowing there with some questions. So, um, yeah, let's see here. Ah, you know what? All right, so there is somebody new here in to the workshop here. I don't recognize the name, so let me ask. Perry, are you new to these workshops here? And if so, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? So the workshop introduction is I'll explain what we do in these workshops and what we do not do. I'll explain how the recordings work. So that way, if you ask a question, you'll understand how quickly you can get watch the recording, of your question. And then lastly, I'll explain what custom indicators I can install into my machine there. All right. So if you'd like to hear that, Perry, let me know. Or anybody else. Let's see. Let's see here. Who else? I thought one other new person joined, but no, no, yeah. Also, we use the Q&A window for these workshops. So the chat window should be disabled, right? So the Q&A window allows me to kind of manage which questions I've answered and which ones still need to be answered. So, all right. Well, once again, gentlemen, I'm just waiting for the next Bloodhound question to come in here. And while I'm doing so, I'm just going to mute my microphone there. Okay. Yeah. All right, Perry. Yeah. Let me see if I can figure out how to enable your microphone. Let's see. There we go. All right. You should be able
Oh,
to talk now.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Hey, welcome to the workshops, Perry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a NinjaTrader enthusiast and lifetime end user, and I typically have strategy ideas. Um, I am more familiar with Blackbird just due to its simplicity and ease of use. Keith did work with us, and I'm trying to get more confident with Bloodhound. I did have a strategy that we worked on with our last meeting with him. Yeah, and I remember this visual illustrator that you're pointing to. I liked to use the simple moving average crossovers. So the idea that we were working on was when the 34 moving average crosses the 100 and the 200 moving average. So having the requirement of crossing two moving averages on any particular time frame to generate a signal to enter a trade. That was my first uh, idea that I had on getting confident with creating a strategy in Bloodhound. So that was I wanted to share that with you. And then I kind of, I think, maybe wanted to refine a little bit, but just seeing how those, how it works and how you do
Yeah. All
your
right. Yep. So
yeah.
that has already been done in the workshop a couple of times here.
Hmm.
There we go. Confluence of multi-moving average crossover condition. Let's see if that's the one here.
Oh, awesome.
And let's see. Oh, no, that's going to be all the moving averages, I think. Um, all sloping together. Plus, this is yeah, if you look at the interface, this is Bloodhound version 1 here, but don't let that deter you because all the logic is still the same. The nodes are all still the same here. The interface looks a little different, but the the logic still is the same. But anyways, that is not the one I'm thinking of. Let's see here.
And I'm just going to turn down a TV in another room. I'll step, but I'll be right back, sir. I just wanted to turn down it. Okay.
Well, all right, I'm not finding it.
That's okay.
I'm
I
only
just
so
yeah,
I'm just gonna I'll just build it right now. So
okay.
give me those moving averages again that you want to
Sure.
see. So hold on.
Um, I wanted to do it on the 1 minute chart. So yeah, you're on the 1 minute time frame. And just a simple moving average or SMA, there it is. And the 34, the 100, and the 200. When the 34 crosses the 100 and say 200, just for simplicity.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe two. Oh, and also the challenge that I think we would think like when it's crossing up or when it's below the I guess when the 34 is below and then crossing up, we would generate a signal long, and if it's above and crossing down, then we would signal short. That was probably a condition I think that we overlooked because just crossing um, is one thing, but cross like identifying that it's below and move crossing the 34, crossing it going up above it going up, and then crossing over it going down. And we were having, I think that was the one challenge I think we had in the last time we were trying to do this, but
All right, let me rephrase that. So typically what I hear in the workshops are
mhm.
the moving averages need to be stacked in the correct order. So for example, the two
Mm,
faster ones are below the slower one. So that doesn't, right? So that's nullified. So the two faster ones need to be above the slower one for a long crossover situation. Whereas this here would be a short, right? So nope, sorry, hold on. Um,
Is the 34 the white color?
yes, yeah, fastest, medium, slowest.
Okay.
And let's see if we can actually find something here. Um,
Yeah, it happens, but it happens at certain
yeah.
moments and throughout a
So
trading day.
yeah, so this wouldn't qualify because they're both below the slower there.
Mhm. There you go.
And
Boom, right there.
there we go. Yep. Okay, I got it. So I'm going to mute your microphone and I'll build this out here and show you how to do this. Okay. And so if you have any other kind of like filtering conditions, just throw them into the Q&A window there for me,
Sure.
and I'll add them to it once I get the core. So I'm just going to build up the core condition here, and then we can add additional filtering if you want to there afterwards. So okay, all right. Thanks for the question. All right. So um, all right, so just for the sake of the recording here, the question is, right, the classic kind of triple moving average crossover situation here. So we have the fastest moving average, a medium moving average, and a slower moving average. So 34, 100, 200 here. Um, Right. Obviously, these could be any periods you want here, but the condition is we need the two faster moving averages to be above the slowest moving average, and then just look for a crossover condition of the two faster ones there. So this is exactly what we're looking for there. All right. And so this cross down is uh, canceled or nullified because they're above the slower moving average there. So no short cross downs, only long cross ups. All right, so that is what the question is. So let's just go ahead and whip this out. So first thing we need to do, right, is we need the long cross ups. We need both moving averages to be above the slowest moving average. So we're going to compare, right, the fastest moving average to the slowest and compare the medium uh, moving average to the slower one there. So that just requires a couple of comparison solvers there. So let's put that on there. And let's go ahead and give these a name. All right, so the 34 compared to the 100 period, like so. We'll connect that in there. Actually, no, compared to the 200 there, getting a little ahead of myself. All right, so input A is going to be the fastest one. Input B will be the slower one, right? And that's typical whenever you're using the comparison solver. Whatever the dominant input is, right? So in this case, the faster moving average is almost always the dominant moving average here that's kind of triggering the condition. You know, typically, so the faster indicator that's triggering the condition almost always goes into input A there. So yeah, we're dealing with SMAs, so we just need to adjust the period here of these default SMA indicators here. So we'll just put in the 34 like so. And then input B, we'll open that up and put in the 200 period there. And there we have it, SMA 34 compared to the SMA 200. And let's go back. All right. And there's that crossover condition. So now the 34 is below the 200. So we're going to take this and do one more. So now we need to compare the 100 to the 200 period there. So we'll just make a copy of this, paste it down here like so. And then let's go adjust the name. All right, so there's the two SMAs that we're comparing. And so now let's go into input A and we'll adjust this 34 to a 100 period, like so. And there we have it. Now we can start connecting in an AND node. So obviously we need both of these stacking of the SMAs to be in agreement there, right? And so there we can see where there's some disagreement, right? So the 100 hasn't quite crossed below, right? It's not below the 200 quite yet there. Right? So that tells us that right now what we're looking at, all the green, is that, all right, the two faster are above the slowest. So whenever there's a crossover, right, this is basically a filtering mechanism here, right? This is a trend filtering, and it's going to filter those crossovers. So once we add a crossover solver, right, because we have a long, it's going to filter out this short cross down, and then vice versa. When this is red, right, and obviously the two faster moving averages are below the 200, then with all this being short, it will filter out this cross up, and we only see cross downs once we add our crossover solver. So let me just adjust these a little bit. All right, so the triggering uh, condition is the crossover. So let's add a crossover solver. And let's go adjust the name here. All right, so there you go. We're just looking for the 34 to cross over the 100. And let's just connect that in first and get this set up here. So once again, we just need to adjust the period since the SMA is already the default placeholder there. So let's plug in those periods. So again, with a crossover solver, you almost always want the faster moving indicator to be in input A and the slower indicator to be in input B here. All right, so let's open input B, and that's the 100 period. And there we go. There's a crossover, right? There's a crossover, crossover, crossover there. So last step is connect the crossover in here, and there we have it. So, all right, there we go. So that cross down was blocked out because of our filtering, right? Our filtering conditions here, making sure that the moving averages are stacked correctly there. And that cross down didn't quite make it since the two faster, right, were above the slower. So pretty apparent. And of course, that cross up is filtered. And we didn't get a cross down, unfortunately. Let's see here. Yeah, cross down. Did we get a cross up? Not quite. Yeah, we got a cross up, but yeah, it definitely does not happen that often. Yeah, so there's one. All right. Oh, there's another one. And all right, there's another two. So that cross down was filtered out. All right. So there we have it. I think we're good. There. And let me name this logic template here. All right, that was pretty simple, gentlemen. So if there's any other questions, let me know. All right, Melroy's asking. So he has a EMA 914 set up that's working well. What should he put when the crossover goes back? I don't quite understand what needs to be put. Um, why do you need to put something when the crossover goes back? I don't quite understand what the issue is. So yeah, all right. So while Melrose filling me in, Melroy, sorry, let me get those EMAs on the chart here. Uh, all right, so I have the 9 and the 14 there. And let's see. All right, so Melroy's gotten back to me. Oh, okay. All right. So really this is a question about exiting creating an exit signal here. All right. Um let's see here. All right, so we do need a MACD. So let's get the MACD on here. And then we can discuss what the question is. All right. So the question is about the MACD average. So let's turn off the MACD and turn on the average line. All right, so just to kind of give us a little setup here. So Melroy gets into the trade, right, when the two EMAs cross each other and the MACD average, yeah, is sloping up, but he wants to get out of the trade when the EMA 9 rolls over or starts sloping downwards and the MACD starts sloping downwards as well. All right. So those are the two conditions we're looking here to exit, to generate an exit signal there, is looking for the EMA 9 to roll over, right, or start sloping down, and also the MACD average line to start sloping down as well. All right. So let me create another logic template here. And let's give this a name. All right, so this is an exit signal. So it looks like, my guess is it looks like the MACD rolls over first. Um, well, no, maybe not always. All right. So it looks like right there, yeah, the MACD started to roll over after the EMA did. But let's see here. We'll do a little testing here. Yeah, so Melroy, I'll give you some nodes here to kind of experiment with and see what you like here, since we really don't know which indicator is going to roll over first. So there's a couple of ways we can look at this. Um, so the slightly easier way is I'm going to use two inflection solvers here. Right. So we'll look at the inflection of the EMA. So let's change our input here to the EMA. All right, do a little search. And all right, there's our EMA. And set it to a 9 period. There. Oh, and let's connect that up. There. All right, so all that's showing us is just, everywhere that the EMA, right, reverses direction, right? It reverses down, goes down, then it reverses up, then it reverses down again, reverses up, down, right, up, down, so on and so forth. All right, so we have that. And then we'll also do the same thing for the MACD here. All right, so I will make a copy of this and paste it down here. And we'll adjust this to the MACD average. There we go. And we'll just change the indicator here. So let's open up the indicator window. There we go. Do a little search. There's our MACD, right? And where we want to analyze the average plot. There we go. We'll select that. And there we have it. So there's when the MACD average rolls over, right? And rolls up, right? So there we go. It's kind of chopping around a little bit there. Yeah, so there's all the points at which, right, the MACD average changes direction there. All right, and now the other way to analyze, right, is the EMA 9, sloping in the wrong direction, starting to slope down or starting to slope up, excuse me, would be the slope solver. So we'll build the same thing here with the slope solver. Yeah. All right. Let's plug that in. And plug in the EMA. There we go. Put in the 9 period. Right. So you can see the difference between the inflection and the slope is telling you the entire time, right? When something is sloping up or something is sloping down, whereas the inflection just tells you that single bar where it changes direction. And so let's do this again here, but this time for the MACD. Yeah. So let's change the EMA to the MACD here. And again, select that average plot. Oh, hold on. I copied the inflection solver by accident. Yeah. Actually, there we go. Let's make sure we copy it instead of hitting paste. There. All right. All right. So swapping out the EMA for the MACD. Select that average plot. And same thing. There you go. So MACD sloping up, MACD average sloping down. All right. So yeah, there's a couple of ways we can look at this here. So we can just combine the two slope solvers together, and that is essentially that's your exit there. So if you took this long trade, and that's not what I wanted. There we go. So if you're where is it? There we go. I wish they would make these icons look a little more distinct. There we go. I want the arrow. All right, so if you're in this long trade here, basically that's your first bar where the EMA, right, headed towards, right, the EMA, what is it again? The EMA 14 there, and the MACD average was sloping down. So that would be your first exit bar, right? Now, with this method here, you do get a lot of outputs, but as long as you're not trading long, then that's fine, right? Having extra exit signals is fine because they only exit a trade, so it different than entry signals, right? Typically, you wouldn't want all of these as entry signals, but as exit signals, it's fine um, because you're not in a long trade here, right? Right. So you can see, let's see here. Yeah, so the MACD is sloping up, um, and we get that crossover. Yeah, a bunch of choppiness here, but basically, most likely you're probably, you might get into a long signal here, and we can see there's no shorts to exit you out of this long trade until this bar right here, right? Um, you know, so it's okay to keep your exit signals dirty looking like this, that's fine. If you really do want to clean them up, we can add a signal blocker like so. And so the um, what the difficult part here is to figure out how many blocks or bars, sorry, how many bars do we need to block for? Let's try 50. There. Yeah. So that looks a lot cleaner there. Um, so the default mode here, the default reset mode here for the signal blocker is it's going to block only one signal, right? As far as it's going to clean up those exit signals there. So you get one long exit. So remember, this is an exit signal. So this short is exiting long trades, right? And a long exit exits short trades, right? So let's just say, yeah, you're in a short trade here, short trade here. So that long exit signal would close out or flatten this short trade there. And so, again, back to the signal blocker, you can see how, right, the exit signals are uh, constantly reversing, right? Short, long, short, long, short, long. So, um, yeah, so we didn't have to really go in and fiddle with the resets. It's just a matter of figuring out um, how many bars do we need to block those extra signals for, right? So just again, right, we're blocking those extras just to make it look cleaner. That's all. It's just for our visual perception there. That's all it's really for there. So, and once you think you kind of figure out, okay, how many bars do we need to block for, just add a few extra, and there we go. Um, so that's one way to approach that. Um, Another way here, yeah, there's lots of ways to mix and match this here. Let's see. All right, so the second approach here, I'll use the inflection solvers. And there we go. So I need another slope node here, right? So this is assuming, so we're combining, right, the slope of the MACD average with the inflection point, right, of the EMA 9 here. And if we combine these together like this, right, we will get some exits here. Now, the limitation here, right, is that the MACD needs to be sloping first, and then the EMA needs to reverse direction afterwards, right? So that's the limitation here, right? Just kind of simple condition building there, right? So when you're combining a reversal point with a slope, obviously whatever is sloping, whatever indicator you're looking at to do the slope, it has to start sloping first, and then the other indicator, needs to reverse direction. So, for example, we'll just have to imagine, right? So we can see the MACD sloping up. Well, what if our EMA reverse direction down first, right? Well, then we wouldn't get anything because the MACD is still sloping up, right? It's only when both conditions are true at the same time there, right? And we can do the same thing here with the MACD, um, which I don't think this is going to produce anything uh, there. All right, so this one we have the MACD reversal point and the EMA slope. And yeah, so there we go. So it worked over here. Um, let's see. Yeah, so we got right this short exit signal right here, right? That did happen. Um, but that was kind of lucky, I'd say. Um, let's see. And there's one last one here, one last way to kind of analyze this and figure out kind of what works best for your system. And let me kind of clean this up here a little bit. I'm going to take both of these inflection solvers again. And let's see. Now, I do have an extra inflection. So I can see here I have two inflection solvers here. So let's see if I can delete one of them. There we go. Yeah. There's no need to have duplicate nodes in your list, right? So just a little tip here. Um, every node is doing some kind of calculation there. So if you fill up your solver's panel here with nodes that are not being used, you're just putting more stress on your CPU there, which, in fast moving markets, the more work you're asking NinjaTrader to do, the slower NinjaTrader is going to run there, right? So don't just leave a bunch of unused solvers here in this list. Try and keep this as clean as possible there. That way, it's adding a bunch of nodes. It's kind of like taking a bunch of charts and throwing a bunch of indicators on those charts that you're not using, but you just leave them on there. And then that begins to slow NinjaTrader down during those fast moving, volatile market moments there, right? And of course, if you just go and remove the indicators you're not actually using, right, then there's less stress on your CPU, right? And NinjaTrader runs a lot smoother. So, yeah, so there you go, a little tip there. All right, so let's get back to these inflection, just using these inflections here, right? Now, if we connect these together with an AND node, there is a extremely slim chance that we'll get the MACD average and the EMAs inflecting together. And yeah, wouldn't you know it? There you go. Look at that. I got two right there in my chart. I didn't actually think we would see any signals here. That's pretty surprising. Oh, three signals. All right. Well, I guess, yeah, maybe, yeah, both of these are moving fairly quickly together. But normally, if you're trying to um, analyze two reversal points, together, right? This is pretty rare. So usually what you have to do is let's push that back a little bit. So usually what you need to do is you want to go to the function nodes and add a signal extender. Or wait, actually, sorry. That's right. The inflection node is actually has a look back period built in. So let's just bump this up to say 5. And when we do that, right? So in the inflection solver, if that look back period, we bump that up, we can see every time we get those reversal points, it gets extended out by 5 bars there, right? Unless, of course, if we zoom in here, right, we can see we got a reverse inflection up, but then the EMA, right, inflected down or reversed down. So that long output was terminated because the EMA then reversed down there, right? Um, yeah. So if you're trying to find a confluence, of reversal points there, then you'll probably need to go in and increase the look back period a little bit of the inflection nodes here, and then combine them together, and you should get a lot more. There we go. Yeah, we're still missing this exit signal because this MACD average, right, it rolled over way back here. But we did get these others there. Yeah. And again, these are exit signals. So yeah, sometimes you will get up to 5 bars of exit signals, right? And right, that's because our look back period is set to 5. So when you get 5 bars of exit signals, right, it's because both the EMA 9 and the MACD average, right, reversed or changed direction together there. And again, because these are exit signals, we don't really need to clean these up. But if you really, really wanted to, right, you could just, grab another signal blocker and just put a signal blocker there. Yeah. So there. Um, yeah. So there's a bunch of ways that you could kind of analyze, um, yeah, these conditions here. So yeah, it looks like the first one that was built probably ends up being the best. Let's see here. All right. So with all that building there, I'm just going to do a little reload. And there we have it. All right. And let me get these untangled here. There. All right. So with all those options to choose from, let me take a look at the Q&A window here. I can see Melro has a bunch of comments for me. Uh, but let's get those cleaned up there. All right. So, all right, just give me a moment here to kind of read through these. Let's see. All right, so we got a multi-part um, comment question here. Um, Good. So it looks like, yeah, Melroy's happy with this one here. So I'm just going to keep it as it is. Again, this is training material. So I'm just going to keep it the way it is. And, if you don't want the others, you can just delete them off there and, also remove the nodes you don't need. Let's see here. So let's see here. Yeah. So Melroy is saying the chat is off. Correct. The chat is disabled on purpose because I need to be able to clean up the questions. I need to be able to remove the questions I've answered so that way I can, just keep I can keep the Q&A window cleaned up so I know what I can remove what I've already answered and well, I'm left with what I still need to address. So yeah, so the chat window, um, yeah, those things you can't delete. You can't remove stuff. So it's just chaos. In this kind of environment where I'm answering questions, it's chaos. It's hard to um, remember exactly where you are in that extremely long chat window. So yeah, so for these workshops, we only use the Q&A window there. So all right, next thing, yeah, please upload to the raw channel. So I don't take requests. Quite often there's just too many. So if you want the video uploaded, also I'm not the one that uploads them. So if you want the recording uploaded to the raw channel here, just email support and just, yeah, file a request to our support email to upload the video to the raw channel there. And our video person will see that and get it uploaded there for you. So yeah, so what Melroy's talking about is um, we have this temporary YouTube channel. So you can see I'm on YouTube and it's called the raw channel here. And these are the unedited recordings. So this is the entire recording of the workshops there. So this is a temporary, excuse me, holding place until our video editor actually gets around, finds the time to actually edit out all the different questions and different topics into their own separate videos, right? So this is how you can watch the recording afterwards as quickly as possible. Is just email support and say, hey, can you upload today's Bloodhound workshop to the raw channel? And so either later on today or tomorrow, our video person will get that uploaded there for you. So, all right. Okay. So that's another part, another component. Let's see what else we have here. Um, yeah. All right. So I was asked, yeah, can we put the entries and the exits in a separate tab? Um, yeah, separate logic template. Yeah. So we call these logic templates here inside of the Bloodhound template, right? Because all of these are analyzing different sets of logic or systems. So, all right. So these were the exits here. So let's, I guess, build the uh, we'll create a new logic template here. And all right, so I'll create a new entry there. And let's see. Yeah. All right, so this is just the EMA 9 crossing the 14 with the MACD average filtering out those signals. All right. So I do have the MACD average slope solver already there. So next, I just need to create the EMA 9 and 14 crossover. So there. All right, so I'm just going to go through and plug in the EMAs quickly here. All right, there's our EMA 9. And now input B, that'll be our EMA 14. All right, 14 is the default. And yeah, all right, so there's just the EMAs crossing each other. So next step there, add a AMP node. And so we'll take the crossover signals and then filter them out with the MACD average. And there we go. All right. Yeah. All right. We'll just call it entry for good. So there we go. So there's our exits and there's our entries. And yeah, definitely there, Melroy, be mindful to kind of remove the extra nodes here that's not needed. As mentioned before, you do want to keep your systems lean and clean. Actually, probably the best thing to do is just create a have Bloodhound open on two charts here. So you can have, right, this workshop file open on one chart and then on another chart. There. Oh, I don't have Bloodhound on here. I used to. All right, let's get Bloodhound on here. There we go. There. Yeah, so on the other chart, you can start, right, with a blank new Bloodhound Bloodhound system here. And you can just select everything, copy it, and then paste it right into the other Bloodhound here. And you can see it's only going to copy the nodes that are necessary there. And create another new logic template there. So that would be your entries, for example. And then over here for the exits, I could just highlight those nodes, copy them, go to my other logic template here, and of course you'll want to, name these appropriately, whatever you like, and then paste those there. Right? And there we go. Um, you know, Now, a little extra education here. So you'll notice I have two of the same nodes here. All right, one has the a number at the end because these both have the same name, because they are both the same node, and when I copied them over, you know, um, it right, this node here is the same as the MACD filter for the entries here, right? So so basically we copied over the same node twice. So what I can do is, again, and to keep your systems lean and clean. Now, of course, there's not much going on here, so this wouldn't be any big deal um, to have a duplicate node here, since this is such a simple system. But just to teach you about best practices, with any charting platform out there, right, to kind of reduce the workload that your charting platform is having to do, and each node is, having to do a calculation. So to kind of keep things lean and clean, I can remove this copy like so, and then just drag this guy over, connect that in, and there you go. So now I'm just down to one node there. And so now this system's super lean and clean. Right? Anyway, so there's an example of how you can just kind of pull out what you need out of these workshop files and produce your own new lean and clean Bloodhound file. And then, of course, the next step here is to save it and give it a file name, whatever file name you want there. All right. So there you go. All right. So I'm just gonna close that out. There we go. Yeah. Get rid of that. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, so there was a multi-part question request. All right, so let me put these away here. There. All right, next one on the list here. Okay, yeah, so we have a follow-up clarification question here from Melroy, which is, yeah, are the nodes in the solvers panel? All right, so this is called the solvers panel here. Let's actually, this will help you guys communicate, with support and with me in the workshops here. If we kind of learn some terminology here. All right. So if you go to the website here, right, and if we go to support and documentation, there we go. And so for Bloodhound here on the left, there is a page here for the interface, right? This guy. This is what you call an interface. So if we go to the Bloodhound interface page here, there you go. All the different elements here are labeled for you, right? So the top is the menu area, just like any program, right? Like Word, Notepad, whatever, right? Your menu's on top. Um, and then over here we have the solvers panel and the snippet library or the snippet panel, right? So that's these two guys right here. Um, and then this is what we call the logic board or the work area. Yeah, whatever. And then more importantly, the property inspector, right? So this, whenever you click on something, right, all the settings show up in the property inspector, right? So whenever you're setting up a node, right, you're using the property inspector here to see what indicators are being used in that node and adjusting any other settings there, right? For each of those nodes there. Yeah. So, all right. So there you go. So, just kind of taking a quick cruise through the interface here. Will just kind of help you learn the terminology, but also you might, learn something new about Bloodhound that just might help you out, make you a little faster in building your systems there. All right. So, anyways, back to the question here is um, do, yeah, do the nodes in the solvers panel. So this is just a master list of every single node that you built because they don't have to be on the workboard. And so, yes, all of these nodes are doing work because at any time you could just drag something over and connect it in. And so, and so you don't want to have to recalculate those on the fly, especially if you're trading live there. So, yeah. Now there is one exception here. And again, that's explained in here. Yeah, so there's best practices right there. Where is it? There you go. All right, so down on the logic board here. Yeah, there we go. Memory and CPU workload optimization here. Right. So, yeah, basically what that's saying is the short version is when you add Bloodhound to a chart and you load up a file into Bloodhound, Bloodhound's only calculating the logic templates that have been looked at, right? So this one we can see has 4 logic templates here. And actually, yeah, that one still says new logic. So let's do a quick little reload there. There we go. All right. So right now, this is the only logic template we've looked at. So the other logic templates haven't been calculated yet, right? And so as soon as you select um, a logic template that has not been looked at, then it is calculated on the fly. But all the nodes have to be calculated though. So there's a big difference, right? There's a big difference between um, just calculating the logic, which is, okay, you take this data, and compare them and AND them together. That's very simple calculations versus calculating the actual node itself, right? Because the indicator, you have to read all that data, right? And gather all that data and look for all the inflections, right? So calculating the nodes is actually a more complex um, function for the CPU to do than to actually calculate the logic, right? So anyway, so short version is um, when you load a template, only the template you're looking at is calculated. And then as you go through and you look at each different one, um, any logic template that's been looked at is then calculated continuously. So that way you can flip flop back and forth without any delay and having to reissue a calculation on everything. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, so just to be clear, any logic node that has not been looked at, that logic has not been calculated. So, all right, let's see here. All right, so again, that's the interface page there. Um, and all right, so it looks like that does it for Milroy's questions. Okay. All right, so jumping back to Perry's question here. All All right, give me a moment to read through all these different questions here from Perry. All right, so yeah, so the first comment here, we already have that. So Perry's just stating that the faster moving average for a long signal, the faster moving average needs to be below the 100 and 200 before crossing. It needs to be below the 200 before crossing. Um, well, yeah, at some point it was. Yeah, at some point it was. So, yeah, I think everything here is correct. So, here, let me switch up my chart here. Yeah, let's see. Um, yeah, so there you go. I mean that's pretty direct there, that one. Let's see if we can find another one here. Wow, even that one. Um, let's see here. Yeah. So, yeah, so there, and at some point, right, it was below the 200. We do have to go back a ways here. Yeah. So if there is something more specific there, in that comment there, yeah, just let me know. Although, let me finish reading the other ones here first. Hmm. Okay, so we are actually modifying this system here. All right. Yeah, so going back. All right. So we're modifying this for this more more uh conserve or restrictive requirements here. Yeah, so we're going to add an extra requirement here so that we find this kind of specific pattern here. All right. And let's see, one more comment here to read. Yeah, so one's just a long, one's just a short comment. Okay. Yeah, so the question is, um, well, I guess maybe not. All right, we'll just use this as an ideal situation here where the crossovers occur fairly close to each other. All right. So I think that probably sounds reasonable there. All right. So, yeah. All right. So this is going to be a slightly different system here. All right. So what we had built here basically was a common, uh, you know, based on the questions I get asked in this workshop, I would call this the more common um, setup here, and also probably what's out there on YouTube and in the wild there. That's more common here. Um, so this more customized one is going to require two crossovers here. All right, so we already have the fastest crossing the medium speed moving average. And so we need another one here. Just checking my list so I don't make an extra one. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to copy this guy and we'll paste it down here. All right. So this will be the 34 crossing the 200 there. All right. So let's go into input B and we're going to switch out the 100 with the 200 period. There we go. And now combine these together with an AND node. And as already alluded to earlier, that with these crossover, well, sorry, yeah, as kind of mentioned earlier with the, where is it? The inflection solvers here, right? Remember the inflection solvers, we increase this look back period to try and get multiple inflection points to overlap each other, right? And so the same thing with the crossover solver. We also have this look back period as well. So let's give these guys a maximum of 10 bars to cross each other. Actually, you know what? Only so obviously the 34 is going to cross the 200 first. So that needs the look back period to extend that forward. Let's take a look. There we go. So this is what we're looking at, right? So when we increase this to 10, right, that crossover condition extends forward in time by 10 bars, allowing the next crossover to occur, right? So this crossover here, yeah, it's always going to occur last. So we don't actually need a look back period. We can just set that down to 1 there, right? Yeah, so we do have specific conditions here from Perry where let's see, where was it? Yeah. So somewhere there, yeah, it said that the 34 will cross the 200 first, and then it'll cross the 100 or the medium term moving average last. And so there we go. Um, there we go. I'll just call it custom for good. All right. There. And let's take a look at this here. Let's just kind of scan through. See if we get any others. Um, well, yeah, so Perry, I guess you'll need to let me know if this qualifies here, even though it crossed, you know, the 100 first and then the 200 last. Same thing here. Oh, um, Let's see. Nope. Yeah, we're not getting too many of these. There we go. Yeah, just that one, I guess. Oh, there's another one. There we go. There's one more. Two more. Yeah. Here, let's add another day of data here. Yeah. I'm working in a VMware, and ever since Windows 11 came out, VMwares do not run all that quickly. So I keep my number of days limited there, so that way I'm not, that way we're not experiencing a bunch of lag there um, with my system. Yeah, let's see. So right there, there we have a bunch of crossovers, but the 100 was below the 200 there, so it didn't quite line up. So if you wanted to accept that crossover there, yeah, let's stretch this out a little bit. There we go. Now we can see that a little bit better. Um, so really, it's just a matter of adjusting. Let's go back here. It's just a matter of adjusting these look back periods. So you can see if I increase this by one, bingo, now we have it, right? So the 34 crossed the 100, one bar before, right? The 34 crossed the 200. So that allowed that signal through just by increasing the look back period to two, right? Now the other one, right, the 34 crossing the 200, that's is still set to 10 there. So again, this is personal preference, right? So you'll have to adjust those periods until you get to a point that you find acceptable there, right? Um, there. All right. Yeah, I don't really see anything there. Hmm. Didn't quite get down to the 200. Let's see. All right, there's that ideal one there. Yeah. And oh, look, there's another one. Um, yeah, there's another one, but it didn't show up. So, right, across the 200, across the 34, why didn't that show up? Because they're too many bars apart. Right, too many bars apart. So, um, let's see here. So, yeah, so this is the 34 crossing the 200. So that crossover happened really early. So if we take a look at that, right there we go. So, yeah, it looks like the right, the second crossover happened about 2 bars later, 2 bars too late. Um, so Yeah, again, this just further illustrates you'll kind of have to figure out exactly, you know, what's acceptable to you there. And so there we go. So now we have that one because I increased the look back to 12. Right. So, um, yeah, here we go. Yeah. And again, just to illustrate here, um, so we can see this signal is on 2 bars, actually. Let's stretch that out. Yeah, there we go. You can see it covers 2 bars there, right? And that's because, remember, our faster crossover here is set to 2 bars. So we could get a possible maximum of a 2 bar signal there when that happens there. And again, if you really want to clean that up so it's only a signal on 1 bar, it's just a matter of adding a signal blocker to it. And there we go. And now we're good there. Cleaned it up though. And I can knock down the number of bars there down to 2, right? Because we know based on the look back period, we can only get a maximum of 2 signal bars in a row there, a maximum there. So our signal blocker only needs to block for 2 bars there. So, um, yeah. And then if you wanted to combine both of these systems together, that is what the OR node does, right? The OR node just combines everything together into one channel, right? Now we got both systems connected together into one channel to the OR node there. Yeah. And oh yeah, actually, right, this one did pick it up. Um, yeah. Yeah, so the original system here also generated 2 signals there. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the reason why the original system generated 2 signals is remember this crossover here, right? It's look back set to 2 because this node and this node are the same, right? Remember, they're both the same node. They're both this node right there. They're both that node just visually represented twice on the logic board, right? So that way, sometimes it's cleaner putting the same node on the logic board twice, but just keep in mind that when you adjust one, you adjust the other one because they're both this single same node here. So if that gets confusing, then you could always do this like so. Ta-da, there you go. So that works as well. So there. Um, there we go. And there. So just add a signal blocker. So now this one is only producing a single signal bar. Um, because again, this faster crossover there is set to 2 there. So you can take a signal from one or the other or both. Yeah. All right. I think that just about covers all the bases so far. So hold on a moment. I'm just taking a look at the Q&A window here. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so here's a follow-up. Yeah, so Perry's saying, ideally, could we say when they cross um, both at the same time? Yeah, so again, hopefully this kind of discussion about the look back period made it clear that it's just a matter of adjusting the look back period. So if you wanted them to be at exactly the same time, right, there we go. Set them to 2, right? Set both of the look backs to 2. That way they literally have to cross within 2 bars of each other, right? So, and so if we look at the crossover system, there you go. So that signal is now gone because those didn't happen within 2 bars of each other. There. Yeah. All right. Okay, so there's that follow-up question. And yep, there we go. All right, Perry's getting it now. So, yeah, just adjust those look back periods to dial in exactly what you're looking for. Yeah, change to a 5-minute chart. This 1-minute chart's working. Let's see. All right. So good. Looks like Milroy got his question answered earlier. Excellent. And it looks like Perry's good to go as well. All right. Great. Well, good. This has been a good, productive workshop. Let's see. So we are at the 2-hour mark. So that's pretty good. That's about average for these workshops. That doesn't mean it's over though. So I will hang around for at least 5 or 6 minutes or so at least to see if there's any more questions here. All right. And if there are no more Bloodhound questions, right, in the next 5 or 6 minutes, then I'll take that silence as my cue that we must be done for the day. All right. But as long as you have questions, just keep putting them in the Q&A window, and I'll stay as long as necessary to make sure I get all the questions answered there. So, all right. So let's see. Yeah. So there are a couple more names here in the room here. Um, um, yeah. So Soar in Vi or V, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Yeah. If you guys have some questions, let me know. And so while I'm waiting on some questions, I'll just remind you guys that if you would like a copy of today's Bloodhound file here, right, with these 2 ideas and built in there, um, or a copy for any of these workshops here, all you need to do is email support there and just say, and just ask for a copy of today's Bloodhound file, and Mike will get that back for you. And again, just to repeat here, if you want to watch a recording, of your question being answered, the quickest way to be able to watch the recording is, again, email support and say, hey, can you upload the video, the recording, to the raw channel here. Let's pull that back up here. So yeah, so go to YouTube and it's Shark Indicator Raw. So yeah, you can tell because there's no banner, whereas the our normal YouTube channel here, let's pull that up, right? That has the nice little node banner graphic image there, right? So this is where the finished, refined um, recordings go with everything cleaned up on them. So, all right, there, yeah, okay. And then also, I might as well throw this in there. Um, uh, so, as far as getting the files, the Bloodhound files, you can email support as mentioned, or if you go to the support menu right here, template files, right? This is where you can download the Bloodhound, and sometimes there's a Blackbird template file here. So you can go to this page here. So these are the template file downloads, right? Um, and so here's where all the workshop Bloodhound files go. So you can go in this area. There we go, right? Bloodhound files. And then you'll notice the oldest ones are listed first. So click sort by date. And now you can see the newer ones are there. So there you go. All right. So if you're looking for a specific date and you don't see it on here, just email support, right? You can always email support to kind of get answers to whatever it is you're needing to get or needing to do there. All right. Oh, now, let me go back. All right. Yeah, so back to the home page here. Yeah. And every once in a while, sometimes there's a Blackbird file that's saved out. So I only save out really complex Blackbird files. For the most part, everything to build in Blackbird as who was it? I think it was um, Perry had mentioned that Blackbird was a lot easier than Bloodhound, and it truly is. So, so only the simple stuff from the Blackbird training videos, those simple things, you won't find files here. Only the really complex stuff ever gets saved out. So, yeah. And then also for the Bloodhound workshops, I do save out the NinjaTrader chart templates here as well. That way you can load up all the indicators there. So yeah, let me actually do that right now. All right. Well, again, gentlemen, I'm just waiting to see if there's any more questions there. Um, all right. Yeah, looks like Perry had to bounce. Yeah. Um, yeah, so a couple more minutes here, gentlemen, to get any more Bloodhound questions you might have in before I wrap it up there. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it. So it's been about 7 minutes here, and I don't see any more. Actually, it's been longer than that. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we're done for today. So today was a good start to get 2026 going here. Um, yeah. Let's see. Is this the last workshop this month? No, we have one more workshop this month. All right, and then we're into February. So yeah, today was a good start, getting the year kicked off. So, all right, guys, with that, have a good rest of your day. And tomorrow is the Blackbird workshop there. So if you have Blackbird questions, join me tomorrow and I'll get them answered for you. All right, with that, see you next time. Bye bye, gentlemen.